And welcome back to Pokemon Team Creation Series. Today's Pokemon Team Creation Series request comes to us from Daniel F., who asked the question, what is the Pokemon team? BJ Blazkowicz from the Wolfenstein series games. I've never played Wolfenstein, sorry to say. So I had to go to the wiki, find out his backstory, his history, all that. I can go from there. And I'm going to tell you right now, I had to haphazard a team for this guy. Let me rephrase that. Haphazard sounds like I had to do it on the fly. No, what I mean is, there's not, like, his personality doesn't lend itself to anything specific. There's not a lot that's unique about him that stands out, so I kind of had to go with, like, some base ideas of what a character like this would have. What do I ultimately mean by that? Well, let's get into it. His personality, he is a good guy, but he's also kind of a dick. Very reserved, very, a staunch soldier through and through, hates Nazis, a patriot, all that. So I ultimately knew I needed the most patriotic Pokemon I knew to represent that in Braviary, because it's a bald freaking eagle. It's, the U.S. bird. So I thought, this represents his sense of, duty, patriotism, all that. He also doesn't like individuals who, doesn't like racism or anything like that, but this represents the guy standing for his country, people, all that. Beyond that, though, I'm like, okay, great. Now what? And it did become a little trickier after this point. One thing that stood out is that he is a soldier. He is a very, very effective soldier. He's skilled in just about any form of weaponry or firearm you can get. But the problem is there are no real firearm Pokemon. The closest you get is a Ramarade, or the number 2 on the list here, which goes to another part of him, a Genesect, because Genesect does have a cannon on his back that is a firearm. Add on to the fact that he is a not man-made, but a human-altered Pokemon. This Genesect did not look like this in the past. Genesect was probably closer to like a Kabutops, and not exactly a Kabutops, but closer to what a Kabutops is than what it is right now, being a Bug Steel type. This also goes to the fact that BJ, as the game's gone on, has become a super soldier in his own right, getting a new body at one point, which is a much younger body than what he originally had, even though he's in his late 60s. So having both a human-altered, a genetically altered, I guess you could say, Pokemon, and having a firearm on its back worked well for adding it to the team. Beyond that, though, I did still want to add some other weapon-based Pokemon. So, an Aegislash made it onto the team when, he's capable of getting his hands on something that's a blade or, a shield ability. Add on to that, he does gain access to some enhancement suits, which I didn't really put anything on the team for that. But there isn't really any Pokemon that act like suits that can be worn, so adding a Steel type there makes the most sense. Another Steel type that would get added, though, who also wields a weapon, is now our new friend, Tinkaton. Tinkaton, who was initially on my playthrough of Scarlet, but I ultimately swapped it out for, I think it was Dodonzo I swapped it out for. But still, I like this, and kind of just gets a bigger and bigger hammer until you get this giant, massive F-off hammer. I do like this design for a Pokemon, and it's another guy monster or Pokemon that wields a weapon. So, or that in and of itself is a weapon. So last two, first one lends itself more to being a soldier than anything else. I knew there had to be at least one fighting type Pokemon on the team. And we went with Phalanx, who's hiding behind BJ there. Phalanx. Phalanx is literally a platoon of soldiers, particularly Spartans, led by their head Spartan, but they are soldiers nonetheless. So I did ultimately like this design concept for this concept for a soldier. And I mean, I could have added any number of fighting types. I could have added Lucario, but really, besides having an Aura Sphere, there's not much that which could act like a firearm in a way. There was nothing else that really tied Lucario to this guy. Apart from the fact he is a canine, but I already have something for that. Spoiler alert for the last one. Other than that, though, there aren't really... I could have gone maybe like a Pawn Bisharp, which is... it's a bishop, but it kind of has the idea of the model of a soldier to it. It wasn't going to go King Gambit, though. I could have gone that way, and that could have also been interpreted as like the whole enhancement suit design. But regardless, I went with Phalanx. Last but not least, I had to think about this, and this one, if you know his backstory, this is going to be a sad one. This is going to be one that's bitter, that makes sense to be on the team, but in a very effed up way. Because he grew up under the thumb of an abusive, racist father, he had to deal with a lot of shit, including his mom and him and his mom kind of being beaten at points, and a scenario where, depending on how the player playing the game chooses, you have to either kill your dog because your dad told you to, or he's going to shoot the dog. And so we have a ghost dog now, and that's Graveyard. And I mean, I could have gone Gravestone. That would have even been more morbid, honestly. I think Graveyard's the cuter of the two, which makes it harsher. And honestly, whenever I get around doing a John Wick team, I might add this one, but I might put it on the team, but I'll also probably have another dog on the team because he got another dog eventually. But Graveyard, because he and plus it would make sense. He lost his dog when he was a kid. It would make sense that Graveyard would be a first stage Pokemon instead of a fully evolved Pokemon. I didn't like the fact I had to put that on the team, but it made sense for the team. So yeah, that is I think BJ Blazkowicz Pokemon team from the best I can learn about the guy. Now, how balanced is this team? Well, you have 3 steel types right from the gate, and one of them is a ×4 weakness to fire, so that's not good. Now, luckily, Aegislash Ghost Steel is a great typing, has literally 3 immunities plus all the resistances the types ultimately have. But there are 2 ghost types. One is a pure ghost type, which is not the best. And it's the first stage of a 2-stage evolution line. You have one monotype ghost and one monotype fighting type. You have Tinkatongue, who at least is immune to the weaknesses of the fairy type from the perspective that it is immune to poison and resistant to steel. I still would probably get not wrecked by fighting. I actually can't remember how resistant fairy is. I always forget where fairy lies when it comes to fighting. I'm pretty sure it's strong against fighting. So it's fairy typing definitely helps it resist fighting types. And then Braviary, who is just a burp, just a normal flying type. But so it's actually, even though there's 3 different steel types, all 3 of them are dual typed, and they're different dual types. Yeah, steel bug is 4 times weak to fire, but there's little you could do against that. So ultimately, I'd say this is an okay team. If you were to fully evolve Graveyard and Gravestone, that would be a better team, obviously, stat-wise. But there are issues with the team. It is not a perfect. There's no like true difference in balance on the team to be sure. But either way, hell, if Leon can have 2 fire, at least in the anime, if Leon can have 2 fire types with Charizard and Cinderace on the team, then why not? But until then, this is my team for BJ Blazkowicz from Wolfenstein. What would you do for this team if you do anything different? Do you like this team? Do you dislike this team? Let me know in the comments below. But until then, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you folks for the next one. Have a good one.